Tonight, a story that could cost him his job. A federal agent tells CBS News he was ordered to let guns from the U.S. make their way to Mexican drug cartels. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, President Obama's message to Qaddafi.
The violence must stop. Muammar Gaddafi has lost legitimacy to lead, and he must leave.
And sea otters under attack from sharks and something more mysterious.
From CBS News World Headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. They are two presidents leading a war against a common enemy, Mexican drug cartels. President Obama welcomed Mexico's President Felipe Calderon to the White House today, and Mr. Obama said the two countries are making progress against drug gangs.
To combat the southbound flow of guns and money, we are screening all southbound rail cargo, seizing many more guns bound for Mexico, and we are putting more gun runners behind bars.
But one of the men on the front lines of the drug war is telling a very different story to CBS News, making an accusation that could cost him his job. An agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms claims the agency has a policy that is actually putting guns in the cartel's hands. Here's investigative correspondent Cheryl Atkinson.
John Dodson, a federal agent, says what he was asked to do was beyond belief.
You were intentionally letting guns go to Mexico.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, the agency was.
An alcohol, tobacco, and firearms senior agent assigned to this Phoenix office since 2010, Dodson's job is to stop gun trafficking across the border. Instead, he says he was ordered to sit by and watch it happen. Investigators call the tactic letting guns walk, in this case into the hands of criminals who would use them in Mexico and the U.S. Dodson's bosses say that never happened. Now he's risking his job to go public.
I'm boots on the ground here in Phoenix and telling you we've been doing it every day since I've been here. Here I am. Tell me I didn't do the things that I did. Tell me you didn't order me to do the things that I did. Tell me it didn't happen. Now you have a name on it, you have a face to put with it. Here I am, someone now. Tell me it didn't happen.
Agent Dodson and other insiders say the gun-walking strategy was approved all the way to the Justice Department. The idea was to see where the guns ended up, build a big case, and take down a major cartel. And it was all kept secret from Mexico.
ATF named the case Fast and Furious.
He's got a bunch of cases.
This surveillance video obtained by CBS News shows suspected drug cartel suppliers carrying boxes of weapons to their cars at a Phoenix gun shop. Those long boxes being loaded into the red car are AK-47 type assault rifles.
He's armed again, carrying another, appears to be 5 boxes, hard case Pelican that would hold a pistol.
So it turns out ATF not only allowed the guns to walk, they videotaped it. Documents show the inevitable result. The guns ATF let go began showing up at crime scenes in Mexico. And as ATF stood by, watching thousands of weapons hit the street, the Fast and Furious Group supervisor noted the escalating Mexican violence. 958 killed in March 2010, the most violent month since 2005. The same email notes, our subjects purchased 359 firearms during March alone, including numerous Barrett 50 caliber rifles.
Did you feel that ATF was partly perhaps to blame for the escalating violence in Mexico and on the border?
Yes, ma'am. I even asked them if they could see the correlation between the two. The more that our guys buy, the more violence that we're having down there.
Senior agents, including Dodson, told us they confronted their supervisors over and over.
And what was the answer? What did they say?
If you're going to make an omelet, you got to scramble some eggs.
There was so much opposition to the gun walking that an ATF supervisor issued this email noting a schism among the agents. Whether you care or not, people of rank and authority at headquarters are paying close attention to this case. We are doing what they envisioned. If you don't think this is fun, you're in the wrong line of work. Maybe the Maricopa County Jail is hiring detention officers, and you can get $30,000 to serve lunch to inmates.
We just knew it wasn't going to end well. There's no way it could.
Then, on December 14, 2010, Border Patrol agent Brian Terry was gunned down. Dodson got the bad news from a colleague.
And they said, "Did you hear about the Border Patrol agent?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, you know, it was one of Fast and Furious guns." And there's really not much you can say after that.
2 assault rifles ATF had let walk nearly a year before, similar to these, were found at Terry's murder.
I felt guilty. I mean, it's crushing. I don't know how to explain it. I mean,
Dodson and a dozen other ATF sources have all told the same story to Senator Grassley, who's investigating. You've tried to get some answers from ATF. What's been the response?
The response has been practically zilch, from the standpoint that documents we want, we have not gotten them, and I think it's a case of stonewalling.
Dodson says he hopes that speaking out helps the family of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. They haven't been told much of anything about his murder or where the bullet came from.
first of all, I would tell him that I'm sorry. Second of all, I would tell him that I've done everything that I can for them to get the truth. After this, I don't know what else I can do, but I hope they get it.
Dodson says they never did take down a drug cartel. However, he says thousands of Fast and Furious weapons are still out there and will be claiming victims on both sides of the border for years to come. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Washington.
Late today, the ATF said it will convene a panel to look into its national firearms trafficking strategy, but refused to comment specifically on Cheryl's report. For more of the ATF agent story, you can go to our website at cbsnews.com. Also today, President Obama had a message and a warning for Libya's Muammar Qaddafi.
The violence must stop. Muammar Gaddafi has lost legitimacy to lead, and he must leave. Those who perpetrate violence against the Libyan people will be held accountable.
The president did not rule out military action, but his immediate concern is a humanitarian crisis. Tens of thousands of foreign workers have fled Libya and are stranded in Tunisia. Mr. Obama has authorized airlifts to transport refugees back to their home countries. Meanwhile, Qaddafi's crackdown on anti-government protesters is being investigated by the International Criminal Court in the Netherlands. The top prosecutor said today the dictator's inner circle, including some of his sons, could be charged with crimes against humanity. Qaddafi's warplanes dropped bombs for a second day on a key oil town held by opposition forces. Mandy Clark is there.
The town of Brega has seen some of the fiercest fighting in Libya's uprising. Pro-government forces took the town briefly yesterday, but they have now been pushed down the road to the west. But this morning, the government warplanes were back in the sky, bombing the area around the strategically vital oil shipping terminal once again. In Tripoli, Saif Qaddafi, son of Libya's dictator, confirmed Brega had been bombed, but offered a strange rationale. The attack was intended just to scare off the rebels, not to kill them. And he gave a chilling assessment of just how vital this place is.
Nobody will allow the militia to control Brega. Excuse me. It's like you're allowing someone to control Rotterdam Harbor in Holland.
Yeah, 17 were killed.
We went to the scene of the bombing with militia commander Abdul Rahman. 3 huge craters, a short distance from the rebel checkpoint at the entrance of the oil terminal.
This refinery is more important than any other place in Libya. This is duty.
He agreed with Gaddafi's assessment. This terminal can pump 55,000 barrels of oil to supertankers each day. That's why he believes the dictator will strike here again. The terminal itself was calm today. Yesterday, this position was overrun by pro-Gaddafi forces. Today, it's back in rebel hands, and they say they're here to stay. Abdul Rahman just signed up for the fight yesterday and got all of 15 minutes training with his new gun. But he's clear about what he wants.
We need a democratic and liberal Libya.
To get there, he and his men know they may have to head down the road to Tripoli. Tomorrow is Friday, and there's a big protest expected in Benghazi, which is the biggest city in the east held by the rebels. The next question is how many people will hit the streets of Tripoli, where there's a call to protest, and how will Gaddafi react?
Meanwhile, Mandy, you've been on the front lines. Has this become a civil war between East and West Libya? And is there any chance the country will be partitioned?
Well, there's speculation that's exactly what Gaddafi is preparing for and why he needs to take control of the oil terminal in this town. Because it's not enough to have control of the oil fields, he needs a way of getting it out. Katie?
Mandy Clark reporting from Brega, Libya tonight. Thank you, Mandy. We have new details about the suspect in the attack yesterday on a group of American airmen in Germany. It appears 20-year-old Arid Uka had a grudge against the U.S. military. Sources tell CBS News that when he was arrested, Uka said, quote, "They are at war with us." Uka, a radical Muslim, opened fire on the airmen while they were in a bus at the Frankfurt airport, killing 2 and wounding 2 others. Investigators believe he acted alone and is not connected to any terror group. And there's an update tonight in a case that's become a real black eye for the Navy. It involves a series of lewd tapes made on board an aircraft carrier. The ship's captain had already lost his job, and as David Martin reports, several top officers are about to lose theirs.
25 raunchy videos, which began as an embarrassment for the Navy, today produced a bloodbath. Investigators recommended 5 senior officers, including a 3-star admiral, for career-ending letters of reprimand. It would have been 6, but 1 had already retired. Admiral John Harvey flatly rejected claims the videos were intended as morale boosters for the ship's crew.
Navy leaders are not popular entertainers, but professionals vested with extraordinary military authority who must be held to a higher standard.
Captain Owen Honors, the former executive officer of the aircraft carrier Enterprise and star of XO Movie Night, has been recommended for separation from the Navy. The videos were part gag reel, part instruction.
Please drink a lot of water, stay hydrated out there.
But Honors knew they were offensive.
Because there's a really good chance you're going to be offended tonight.
The admirals were reprimanded for condoning the videos, even though Honors began each one by claiming tongue-in-cheek they were innocent.
The captain and the admiral, they don't know anything at all about the content of the video or the movie this evening.
34 other crew members were cautioned or warned about poor judgment, but they will all be able to continue with their careers. Katie?
David Martin at the Pentagon. David, thank you. And still ahead here on the CBS Evening News, adorable and endangered, the mysterious threat to sea otters in California. 2011 has only just begun, but campaign 2012 is already starting. A number of Republicans are considering a challenge to President Obama, including Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the House. He's not ready to throw his hat in the ring, but today Jeff Greenfield reports he did stick his toe in the water.
And they're off and running, sort of.
Will you be running for president in 2012?
They're speaking, they're meeting, they're writing books, but what the likely Republican contenders haven't done is to take any formal step toward launching a presidential campaign. Last month, for example, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich sure looked like a candidate, entering a big conservative meeting triumphantly to the theme of Rocky. But today, back home in Georgia, he announced a website to help him decide if he should run.
We are establishing a website. We will look at this very seriously, and we will very methodically lay out the framework.
And Gingrich is hardly alone. In fact, not one serious candidate has launched an exploratory campaign committee, much less announced for president.
Well, I think it's important to get back to your question.
4 years ago, by contrast, all 3 of the major Democrats had thrown their hats into the ring, and the major Republicans had all launched their committees.
Last time you had a lot of people in for an extended period of time, and that didn't really accrue any particular advantage.
In fact, many of the possible contenders are already well known. Huckabee, Romney, and Palin all ran national campaigns last time. Newt Gingrich has been a national figure for 2 decades.
This is a contract with Americans for America.
There are personal considerations as well. Mike Huckabee is making real money for the first time in his life with a TV show and speeches. So is Sarah Palin. Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels is concerned about the impact on his family. And despite huge Republican gains last fall and a Democratic incumbent with mediocre job approval ratings, President Obama is seen as a formidable political figure who will be difficult to defeat.
Thank you.
President Obama, at worst, is even, or in many cases, is leading by as many as 10 points.
Now, one tempting factor is that for the first time in decades, there's no clear GOP frontrunner, and nobody can predict who the favorite will be. And when it comes to political predictions, nobody's usually right. Katie?
All right, Jeff, should be interesting. Thanks very much. And coming up next on the CBS Evening News, what's killing the California sea otter? We end tonight with a fight for survival. California sea otters were already on the endangered species list, and now they're dying off in growing numbers. The problem, John Blackstone reports, is no one's exactly sure why.
The California sea otters that so capture people's hearts
I see one sea otter
are losing ground in their struggle to survive. Many are mysteriously falling victim to a ruthless killer, the great white shark.
This year was an alarming number of white shark attacks that we identified. I think the jury's still out on A, what it means, and B, why it happens.
It's puzzling because the sharks don't eat the otters, but one bite is enough to kill them. And it's one reason for a worrying decline in the number of California sea otters. The latest count of this threatened species shows their population dropped to just over 2,700, a decline of more than 3.5%. The number of sea otter pups, which represent the future of the species, is down 11%.
This is a female that died right around the time that she was about to give birth.
When otters die, they often end up in veterinarian Melissa Miller's lab, a kind of crime scene investigation for otter deaths. Sharks are not the only problem.
We know something's happening where otters that are prime-aged animals are dying of heart failure.
Since sea otters spend their lives right along the coast, their health can be affected not only by what's happening in the sea, but also by what's happening on land. It's a complex, often puzzling interaction. Heart disease could be linked to the otter's voracious appetite that makes it vulnerable to toxic runoff from the land, says Tim Tinker of the U.S. Geological Survey, who tracks the otter's food supply.
Disease-causing parasites are going to end up in the ocean there, and sea otters are at the top of that food chain.
For a while, in the effort to keep up the population, abandoned sea otter pups were hand-raised by human surrogate mothers. It did not work. Though frustrated, researchers continue to study otters, capturing them to look for signs of malnutrition and disease. Still hoping to save an animal that remains better loved than it is understood. John Blackstone, CBS News, Monterey Bay.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Good night.